Welcome back. Another video. Today, I am going to go through and rank the track list of Mac Miller's Swimming. Swimming is my favorite album. Mac Miller is my favorite artist. And actually, I didn't know this until like 5 seconds before recording. I was scrolling through Instagram. Today's actually would have been his 32nd birthday. So, kind of makes sense to do it on today. So, I'm going to go through. I'm going to rank these S to C. I'm not doing any D's. This album, again, it's my favorite album, so like to even put something at C is wild to me. Not something I really... It's just so I can space them out. You know, I do have favorites in here. So, starting from the top, Come Back to Earth. I think this sets up the album Swimming perfectly. The title, you have the muddy synths, almost like you're floating. If you've ever seen the little visualizer of the diver, kind of like floating to the bottom with the song. I think that's like just a perfect, calm, perfect way to put it. It's calm, but you're being overwhelmed by the sea or whatever, obviously the swimming motif entails here. I think every time I want to listen to this album, I always go start to finish on here. And when you're in the mood for this album and the first thing you hear is "My regrets look like text I shouldn't send," I mean, you get chills, you get goosebumps, you get almost adrenaline too, because you know what's about to come after this. I mean, it can also bring you on the verge of tears depending on your day. I think he perfectly sets the stage just by saying in the opening track, "I was drowning, but now I'm swimming." Again, he's setting the mood for the album. He's got the motifs. He's planting the seeds for the rest of the 47 minutes or whatever it is. And I think for this to come following the sobering story of Good AM, it's refreshing to hear something like this for a Mac listener. He's through the storm. He was drowning, but now he's swimming. So I love that. I think he goes to illustrate the mood and resonate with anyone who really has a heart, just by saying like, sunshine don't feel right when you're inside all day. That's, again, something that a lot of people can relate to, but you can take it however you want to. And I think every time you listen, you have the ability to take it one way or another. And I think that's one of the great things about these weather motifs that he uses throughout, because he can talk about complex issues and emotions in such a lighthearted and relatable way. I mean, everyone experiences weather. You know, if it's rainy, you're not going to be as energetic as if it's 78 and sunny. I love what he does to set up the album. All that being said, this is definitely the song that I played the least out of any of them. I think that it's just such a beautiful song to set the tone for the album. It's the perfect intro song, but it's not one that I'm gonna listen to just one off. I'm not going to add it to a bunch of playlists here and there, but it does prepare you for the album. So I'm going to start off. Come Back to Earth is going to be a C for me. I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Fiobach. They make some of the best athleisure, travel wear, gym wear, basic tees, quarter zips, crew necks, pants. They even got jeans on there. I love their t-shirts. I love their quarter zip. I've been wearing it nonstop. It's got pockets, which just kind of makes it next level to any other quarter zip I've ever had. Their t-shirts, wearing it right now, it's almost like an athletic-y material. It's incredible. It's great for if you want to throw something as a base layer with a nice looking fit underneath. If you want to get some Fiobach clothing for yourself, use our code in the link below, get 20% off your order. Use the code, get 20% off your order, and save even more money, especially when you compare it to something like Lulu or Viore. Get yourself something nice. Next up, we got Hurt Feelings. This is where we start to get a little bit into it. This is where Mac starts to spit some verses. He starts to cook a little bit. He's talking about what it took for him to get there, how people act either around him before or after his fame in regards to both his actions, specifically the G-Wagon DUI that most Mac fans know about. Also acknowledging that he's changed in the process. I mean, the DUI incident, he called the cops on himself. He reported himself. He recognized instantly the wrongdoing. And he talks about it in all of his songs. It's a continuing theme, and he uses the Mercedes and the G-Wagon as he describes it as flaunting or a stupid way to spend money. But it's like a good representation. He uses it as a way to kind of drive a lot of these themes. No pun intended there. He's got the catchy hooks. Almost dreary sense in the back as Mac kind of floats over the melody, but at the same time he puts more serious verses in there, which I love. This is the shit that I'm dealing with, but I wish I forget. Used to be feeling depressed, now that I'm living, I'm feeling a little obsessed. And then you have that followed by hitting high in jacuzzis, I be hitting the jets. Some fun wordplay here. I mean, what's not to love with that? And then he finished it off with the classic line, "I've been going through it, you just go around it." I think a lot of people can kind of hit home with that one. I love what he talks about in this song. But again, this one was kind of like, I'm going to give it a B. I'm going to give it a B. I love it. I love this album. Again, I'm going to stop saying that. I've already said it a lot. But I think that although this song has a lot of good conveying of messages here, it's still not one that it's not my heaviest played. Next up, What's the Use? This is where we really start to get that like jazzy album feel. We have Thundercats bass line going to start off the track where it always reminded me of the intro to Chuck. If anyone's ever seen that show, you might know what I'm talking about. I could just be crazy with that. But this is where we really get to see Mac start to sing on the hook, which is something, it's like a breath of fresh air on the album, especially given the kind of dreary, dull synths and sounds, muddy synths that we have to really set the mood with Swimming and Hurt Feelings. And now we have Max singing on this jazzy, fun, bouncy bass line, which is just so refreshing. Easily one of my favorite songs on here. It has a deeper message hidden behind the lighthearted ambience, which, I mean, any fan of this album can recognize and appreciate. The sound of his relationship and his yearning for whatever drug or drink he could be talking about on the hook. And then the verse is talking about he came up with the homies, blocking out those that are trying to bring him down. He's doing his thing. No matter what he does, people are going to hate on it. He started off doing the frat rap, and then he switched it up with Macadelic and Faces, and Watching Movies with the Sound Off starts to get onto his more dark, lyrically inclined rap. And people hopped off the train for him. People that liked him for that frat rap. Then he switched it up again with Good AM, Divine Feminine, Swimming in Circles, obviously. And it's like, people are going to hate on it, but he's going to keep doing it. No matter what he does, people are going to hate, and he's just going to do what he does. And I love that about it. I think it's a great way to go about it, especially with this album. I'm giving What's the Use an S because, fuck it, man. That song is so good. I'm going Perfecto next. Perfecto, again, brings the mood back down a little bit. You hear that first little, and it's just like, you know, it's going to be a little slower. It ain't perfect, but I don't mind because it's worth it. He's singing over it again with the muddy sounds. I love that. This is kind of like the last one of the very muddy sounding synths for a while. And just based on the first chorus, you get the idea of the whole song with It Ain't Perfect, but I Don't Mind because it's worth it. Something that can resonate with a lot of people. And he goes kind of crazy with the symbolism on here. He's got the recurring references in the first verse. Pull my heart out my chest. The cards is all on the table. I'm calling it. Don't say it. I swallow it. How he's just kind of keeping everything to himself. And then switching up a little bit later with Feet on the Clouds and My Head on the Ground, giving the imagery to he's so daydreaming. He's so lost in his thoughts that he's literally turned upside down. And it's something we see later again, which I love. He's planting the seeds, man. He's just planting them. He's letting them grow a little bit. And then the pre-chorus, I'm treading water. If I drown, I don't care. They calling for me from the shore, talking about how like people are trying to help him. He's out there actively drowning. And then coming back again with the second time, if I stop moving, I'll float, which is so well put because it's like when you're drowning, whether it's actually drowning or you're being overwhelmed with life, you're going to thrash around, you're going to panic, you're going to try to do everything you can to save yourself, when in reality the best thing to do is to just stop and relax and float and you'll be okay. But it's hard to see that when you're in the moment. You can see it when other people are doing it, you can see it in hindsight. So I love the fact that he does this, and then you have Snoop Dogg coming in at the very end with just play it cool, baby. Just play it cool. Cracking a drink, which I think just the drink crack in itself is kind of references that to play it cool, you need some type of alcoholic drink or substance to do that when, I mean, you don't really have to, but I mean, it's just, it's so fucking beautiful, man. So, where am I going to put it? Perfecto, I'm going to go back down to a B though. It's so good, but I don't know. I'm just feeling a B. This is my video. I'm going to do what I want. Next up, Self-Care. So probably the biggest single off this release beforehand. You get it 2 weeks before the album. You get the album cover with it. So a lot of hype with this. You get the music video with this one. I think a lot of fans are very thankful that we got the music video because there's so much symbolism, so much deeper meaning and inflection in that. And I'm not even going to begin to dive into it. I'm not an English major. I'm not someone to interpret this. This is all about just ranking the songs. But I'm going to talk about him a little bit. He's got the verses. He's singing the hooks. He's got the incredible switch up. And I mean, it's definitely one of the most defining songs of the album. Somebody Save Me From Myself. I mean, But that's not talking about swimming versus drowning. I don't know what is. The whole chorus speaks directly to how he's had to cope with the consequences of his actions. And the switch up again, like I talked about, I mean, the switch up can bring you to tears. As he describes being stuck in oblivion, followed by the peaceful idea of, let's go back to mine, let's play some 45s. It's safer there. I know there's still a war outside. I think just thinking about that, like if you have that special someone, that person that you just feel as safe as possible with, and whether you're reflecting on a hard time or you're in it, and there's nothing better than just being able to escape the world, just hunker down with that person, really just enjoy being with them and trying to escape the world, whether it's through music or just hanging out with that person. I think it's a beautiful picture. I don't know. I'm sorry. I said I'm not going to get into this. I'm not an English major. I'm not going to get into this. Self-care, you know how good it is. I'm going to give it an A. Self-care is an A. That's it's just going to be there. Next up, we got Wings. This is another one of my absolute favorite songs on here. The transition of that like euphoric daze that kind of is conveyed with the music of the end of Self-Care to just that one note on Wings, and then the slow drum right before Matt comes in saying, I got a bone to pick like roses, I ain't feeling broken no more. I mean, holy fucking shit, man. That in itself can like, it hits a little bit. And then he goes on, the drums pick up with the music, Risey says, wind in my face. Oh my god, it hits you like a ton of fucking bricks. It's so good. Musically, I love what he does with this song. The simplicity of it, but yet still making it hit really well when he needs it to. I think it's just so good. He kind of paints the picture of being free after saying the same bone that you pick's gonna break. That's a motif. I love that he's the recognition of that. He's him singing that these are his wings. I mean, this is again the Mac singing. This is something new that Mac fans haven't really gotten before, and it's something that Mac talks about he was nervous to do before this, which I mean, it's fair. I wouldn't want to be singing on anything either. But it's so well done. It's so beautiful. The second verse, he illustrates how much energy he puts in and the results that he yields, has him questioning everything. He brings back the weather motif in the pre-chorus again, something that anyone can relate to. Never gamble on the weather, which is fair because you never know what it's going to do. There's just a lot that kind of goes into this song that I think makes it as beautiful and I'm going to say perfect as it is. I'm going to give it an A. And it's almost kind of a sleeper too. Like first couple listens to this album when it first came out, 5 years ago, it was not my favorite one, but I mean now it definitely is. Next up, we got Ladders. So Ladders is definitely one of my favorites. It was from the very beginning. This is one where I'd listen to it, and like the first time I listened to it, I was literally driving to work. I remember it so vividly, and Ladders hit, and I was like, I get it. I get the album now. It makes sense. This is where you start to get the jazzy instrumentals coming back a little bit harder. I mean, I could do an entire video on just the greatness of this song alone, how he touches on the delicateness of everything. I could be wrong with that. Whether it be fame, fortune, love, or just simply getting by, even that castle's made of sand. And he also kind of talks about his come up, turning hotels into castles, how he had to grind on the road, on the tour life in his early days to get to where he is. And my all-time favorite, I've been in this shit so long that it don't smell. I mean, the guy goes in. I think the second verse on this is my favorite verse of the whole album. So I'm very biased towards this song. The instrumentals are too upbeat not to put you in a good mood. Mac kind of goes crazy on both verses. It's just like, you can't not love it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go back-to-back S's here. Ladders at S. I love it. Next up, we got Small Worlds. Now, building up to this album release, Small Worlds was released after Buttons, after Programs, but as a little Buttons pack. And I think that when that first came out, Small Worlds was like my least favorite of those. I was so happy with Programs. I loved Buttons. They're still some of my favorite songs. Kind of gives you back to that good AM Mac rapping vibes. It makes sense now why they're not on the album, but Small Worlds obviously did make the cut because I'm talking about it, and I'm so glad it did. I mean, it's just so fucking good. He was almost joking as he takes on the world with this song, with his bouncy bass, his lighthearted singing. Fight the Mac seems to illustrate making it through with I might trip, I never fall, God knows I came close, and then his really deep modulated voice saying, Don't try this at home. Almost like warning you, use Mac as an example. Don't live like him, learn from his mistakes. I love that. That being said, I mean, this is still easily one of my favorite songs. The pure singability of this song alone is so good. The bouncing instrumentals as like Mac's little ad-libbed goes around in the chorus, or after the chorus, I guess, is so good. There's a lot of relatability in the song, whether it's 100% accurate or not. Doesn't really matter. It's just like, I love the stuff where it's like, no need for shame, I get more peace at slow speeds. Ice in my veins, I'm below freezing, snow season made me. But there's no ice in my veins. There's warm coffee sludge running through my veins. There's nothing icy about my veins or anything that I do. So having that line and being able to just like sing and kind of feel that for a second, I love that. Don't want to grow old, so I smoke just in case. Line right here is probably what makes me love this song as much as I do, because it just like, it takes me back to like, if I did want to smoke not to grow old, really takes me back to being in high school. Maybe you're smoking, you're listening to kids, you're listening to Outside specifically, talking about how you can smoke this one outside, which is, again, I mean, it's a Mac song talking about a Mac song in my mind. I mean, that's just like, you can't plan that. That's just like, hits home for me, takes me back to my younger days when I first was listening to Mac, just thinking about that concept. And then wrapping it up with the poem-esque verse that could hit a little close to home depending on what you have going on. Regardless, it still resonates with everyone to some extent. If you've gone through something, if you're in the dark days, I think this song is just so well done. Where am I going to put it though? I think I'm feeling an A. I'm feeling an A. Thinking about what I have left. Yeah, we're gonna give it an A. Next up, we take it back a bit with Conversations Part 1. It's a sleeper for sure. He's talking his shit. He's owning his shit. He's came up from the basement, made above the clouds. Now he's in a spaceship. All you do is sitting around the house getting faded. I think that this really... Mac could be talking about himself at this point. You think about Mac in the Sanctuary days when he might have made Macadelic during it some, but Faces and watching movies with the sound off, where he was just stuck in his home studio, doing drugs, having his friends come over, recording song after song after song. It's just incredible how far he came from that time in such a short amount of time too. I mean, that's like 2013 to 2014. He also brings back the motif here, head up in the clouds and my feet beyond the pavement. So while it's a flip perspective from before, he still offers the idea of he's lost in his daydreamy thoughts, he's floating, he's having a good time in his own little world, he's got his head in the clouds. So I love what he does. This song was a big sleeper for me. It really makes you wonder what Conversations Part 2 could have been. Kind of, I mean, obviously really sad, delicate subject. But I'm going to give this one a B just because I slept on it for so long. I do love it. Next up, we have Dunno. Instant classic for me. I mean, it's such beautiful chords at the beginning. Mac's humming. Then he starts off with She Do Whatever She Like, going on talking about someone that he has that others may desire. A lot of people speculate this about Ariana, which is fair. It can resonate with anyone who knows that special someone, whether they have them or they desire them. That just seems unattainable. And it goes off to paint this beautiful evening together, just smoking, them connecting on so many simple levels. And then Mac talking about how he's taking too long. He's on the risk of fucking it up, but it's okay. It melts your heart in the chorus. I mean, holy shit. Like, when you have someone you can visualize the song with, I think it makes it a lot more incredible. It's probably the most superficial song on the album because it's just like so, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like he's not going crazy in introspective metaphors here the entire time. He's just talking. He's just talking on the song about this night with this beautiful woman that he's with, who wants to be like him. He wants to be like her. I think about Switch Up and Self-Care. When Let's Go to My Place, let's play some 45s. This is kind of the night, the vibe that they're talking about. It's okay, everything's crazy outside, but they're together. It's a nice breath of fresh air, both musically and emotionally. And I mean, if you listen to the Spotify singles of this version of this song, the first time I heard it, it brought me to tears. It's so good. It's so raw. You take an already very stripped song and strip it down more and just put nothing but pure emotion into it. It's so fucking good. This song, it hit for me from the beginning. I'm going to give it an A. We go from Dunno to Jet Fuel. Incredible change in styles from Dunno to the sample chant of, I think it was an old reggae song, which is really fucking cool. Shout out Dissect podcast for shouting or figuring that out. But then it's an incredibly dark turn. I mean, he starts off, used to want to be a superhero, riding around with a cape, hunting bad guys. So he begins this motif that we see for a couple songs at the end here of innocent Mac before he knew what was in store for him. And then very quickly switches up to the realism of now with now my head underwater, but I ain't in the shower and I ain't getting baptized. Visualizes that grown-up feeling of being overwhelmed with his head underwater. Sets the precedent for the rest of the song of how he found this realm of coping and how he can never run out of jet fuel. I mean, it's just so good. He also talks his shit. You don't even know him to go. Skyhook him in the post. You have my girl too clutched to choke. I love that shit, man. I love when he's just kind of going in. But then he comes back to a dark turn when he talks about liquor stem in my cup. You fade it when I wake up because everything's too much. I think he's bringing back this idea of almost drowning instead of swimming, both literally in liquor and then being overwhelmed with light and using quote-unquote jet fuel to help get you through that. But it's also like, it's really hard when you just think about how he died. It's a tough listen. It's beautiful. He talks about his troubles, everything he's been dealing with, and it's tragic that it ended up being his demise, but it also just speaks to the realness of Mac and how he didn't shy away from anything. Then he brings to the pre-chorus, having to bring the idea of existing forever under the influence, basically. And I mean, again, this lyric, it hits hard for any Mac fan. And the honesty of it is brutal. It's a brutally honest song, but it's still so good. It's so well written. It's so beautifully arranged. He has some seriously earwormy bars on the verses that make me love this song. And it has a feeling a bit lighter, and although the song is avoiding the hardship of what he's actually talking about. And then you have the modulated vocals at the end, which, until I understood what they said, were kind of like whatever. But it's so beautiful. Fate in your hands while you wait for me. I'm already there. Almost a savior figure telling you, head back down to the ground, dear. I mean, it's fucking beautiful. Are you serious? Like, the way he modulates his voice to make it feel like you're either... I see it in two situations. You're either underwater, you're drowning, actively drowning, and you have this person talking to you from above, reaching that hand down to pull you up. Or it's like you have that head in the clouds, you're floating, you're flying high on jet fuel, and it's almost like you're dreaming when you hear this voice, and you're like, oh, fuck. It's not what you want because you're having fun, but it's what you need to hear to come back down to earth. Ooh, full circle there. And then, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rank it. I think I'm going to go A. I'm going to go A on jet fuel. I'm going to do it. I love it. And then you have 2009, which, like I said, you have like this dreamy exit of jet fuel with this voice talking to you. As your head's in the clouds. And then you have these strings playing, which feel like as if you're like a feather that fell off a bird, floating all the way to the ground as the strings kind of go with you, giving you that visual, that feeling, followed by the piano as you get right close to the ground as it hits. And then, I mean, just to include that, just to have this orchestral instrumental at the beginning of a song that is your magnum opus of the album is so wild and incredible. Like, the amount of times I played this song in the car, like on a road trip, and my friends are there, and they're like, what the fuck are we listening to? I'm like, just wait, I promise. And then they're like, holy shit, this song's beautiful. And I'm like, yeah. So, I mean, it's just wild. And then there's so much beautifully done instrumentals on this album that can make it feel overwhelming, even though they're so light. And this one's just like beautiful, clean breath of fresh air. And the story of how it went, where it's like Mac heard this beat and then just went in the studio, didn't really say anything, and just like almost freestyled the whole thing as if he had been thinking about this for so long. I mean, it's an incredible story, and for it to have as much weight as it does, and he almost didn't put it on the album. I forget, someone had to convince him to put it on. And I think everyone's very thankful that it ended up being on here, because it's the best. I mean, I think it's the best song on here. It's the magnum opus. It's the grand confronting of what could have been. What if I didn't take this path? What if I took a simpler route? But he comes in with, again, like this beautiful breath of fresh air. Nowadays, all I do is shine, take a breath, and use my mind. It's incredible. And then carrying on later, I was yay high and muddy. Looking forward was looking for me. So like this life of Mac's was inevitable. Like he was searching it out, and it was coming for him. And it kind of continues the motif from Jet Fuel of like this innocent Mac. This, I mean, yay high and muddy, like a childlike Mac looking for what he has coming for him before he was corrupted by the world and his career path and everything that he underwent. So, I mean, it's all said, and it ain't 2009 no more. You know what's behind that door. I think anyone if you made it this far in this video, you know the significance of this. It's the encapsulated message of the song, looking back to what if he took a different route and whatnot. I think we're all thankful that he took this route, as tragically as it ended up. It's arguably perfect. And again, something that any person can listen to and think back to a pivotal point in their life. Like, what if I didn't break up with this person? What if I went to this school instead of this school? What if I didn't quit my job? What if I didn't stop pursuing my dream career? Like, what could have been? You'll never know. And I think Mac answers that perfectly. He's saying exactly that. Like, you're always going to wonder. You're never going to know. You only have the path that you've taken. So it's just a beautiful song that resonates with like anyone, really. So I love this shit, man. It's so good. This is a very obvious S tier. And finishing off, we're almost done. Let's go. So It Goes. This song, again, an absolute sleeper for me forever. Beautiful lyricism on here. The verses, he's going in, he paints these pictures, and like he's actually going kind of hard. Like, especially that second one. It's like you don't really realize what he's talking about until you actually like look at the lyrics. Huge sleeper for me. The idea of Mac relating the title and the rhythmic flow of saying "So It Goes" to the anti-war book Slaughterhouse 5. I gotta think Dissect for connecting these dots. If it is true, there's no way of really knowing. It's an anti-war book acknowledging and facing death constantly and following up with the phrase "So it goes." So it's a form of acceptance, but also the idea of becoming numb to these terrible instances and being able to just shrug them off with the simple phrase "So it goes." But conversely, you're constantly acknowledging it. So it's kind of doing the opposite effect. And I think with everything Mac says in this song, and then following it up with "So It Goes," is just a beautiful way to cap off the album. I don't know if it's exactly what Mac intended to have this connection, but it could be. I mean, he knew what he was doing. He was so incredibly involved in everything. And just the fact that he ended the last verse with "Just like a circle, I go back where I'm from." So closing the album with the segue to the theme of the next one, because most of Circles is already done. That type of stuff, that type of connection of these two is so beautiful. And then exiting instrumental where he told John Bryan to play the intro to Heaven as the outro. And I think given the tragedy of Mac and this being the ending to the last album he released while on this earth is, I mean, it's hauntingly beautiful and it's so sad, but it almost puts your mind at ease. Kind of leaves you with the hopeful idea that Mac is at peace. And it's musically, it's perfect. Like, I hope when I die, this is what I hear, no matter where I end up, because it's just like something about it settles something inside you, and it's just so beautiful. I think he wraps up this album perfectly. I'm going to give this an A. You thought I was going to put it a B to even it out. I know you did. I'm not doing that. So that's my list. That took started hitting me a little bit here at the end. I mean, this album is, like I said, I think this album is perfect. If I was stuck on an island for the rest of my life with one album, this is what I'm choosing every single time. I love this album. It's my favorite album. Mac's my favorite artist. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Do you agree with this tier list that I got going on here? Do you think I missed something? Do you think they all belong at S? Because that's a fair argument too, and I'll support you in that. But that wouldn't be a very entertaining video. Share this video with someone if you know someone that loves this album as much as I do. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about this tier list in the comments below. And we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.